Welcome back to TomPadulaTV, and we continue with our interview with Carmela Padula, who's my cousin, first cousin of Dad, and my dad were brothers. And there was another one, Zio Rocco as well. So, and then there were two girls on our side of the family, on Dad's side, so the 5 children altogether. And 3 of the boys lived very different lives. And Zio Rocco, the one who migrated to New York, in fact, he did not come back to Montemurro. And no, he never came back. So he actually died in New York. And he was saying, I wanted to talk to you about Tom, you know, my cousin Tommaso. Tom, that he didn't speak Italian, he didn't speak English in front of the Italians in New York.
Yeah.
Was it that bad?
Yeah, because he was ashamed. He didn't want to make a mistake. So what he tried to do, he tried to exercise his English, to improve his English, but away from all the people he knew.
But the Italians in New York, did they speak only Italian, or did they speak English as well?
The Italians in New York.
He lived in Spring Street. Where did you live?
In Spring Street.
In Spring. So I've been there. That's next to Broadway, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he was in Spring Street. There were a lot of Italians there.
Yeah.
And they didn't speak English.
No, they spoke English, but you know, he didn't want to have anything to do with them. He wanted to learn English from American, and that's it.
He wanted to become an American.
Yeah, he wanted start to deny his origins, like most of the people did at those times.
And then he actually
they
succeeded.
Didn't want to, yes,
he succeeded because within a few years he was called in the U.S. Army and served in Korea. In the conflict of Korea, apparently, because it wasn't regarded as a war.
No, I think it was considered a conflict. He was wounded, but he didn't even receive like a pension or something. Only he had something about health,
but he had this bullet.
Yes.
He had a bullet through his mouth, isn't it, and broke a bit of his jaw.
Yeah, yeah.
But so he was looked after in hospitals, etc., but didn't receive any pension for his troubles.
No.
Wow. And there was another point that you made during the last conversation, and that was about your father being a shoe shine.
A shoe shiner.
Si.
You know, somebody once about 15 years ago asked me, what was your father's job? And I said, well, my father was a shoe shiner. And he said, well, don't say anything don't say this to anybody, because it was
something to be ashamed
of, like a miserable job. I said, well, why should I be ashamed of my father being a shoe shiner? He was an honest man. He never got in trouble with the mafia, because at those times it was easy to be corrupt. I said, why should I be ashamed of my father? He was such a beautiful man for me, that he is my hero. He was my hero. He still is my hero. I keep talking about my father with my children, and I wish my children could be just like my father was, a gentleman.
He was a very generous man as well, because he bought properties in Montemurro, and my dad and his brother and his mother lived off that for many years between the wars. Then after the war, both the younger brothers got married, and well, we have I'm one of 5 in my family, and my other uncle had 2, so things became a little bit more complex, and Dad decided to come to Australia.
Yeah.
But and then you came back in the early 60s, in 61. That's where I met you, but I was already studying in another town in Moliterno, so I didn't really see a lot of you, but I remember Antonio very well. Now, the reason why I say all this is because our conversation today really is an interesting conversation in terms of the history of migration from those small towns in southern Italy to the rest of the world, to the diaspora, the Italian diaspora. Now, do you know, Carmela, whether our grandparents I'm talking about, nonno Tommaso, right? And did he go? Apparently, he went to South America and to New York. Did he ever travel? Do you know for sure whether he was in the Americas? Because I think he was.
Oh, I think he went to Argentina, but I don't know that much about him. My grandfather,
Tommaso Carmine.
I don't know that much about him.
And do you know about Mamma Rana? You saw. Yeah.
Yes, I know about her.
Nonna Carmela.
Nonna Carmela, yes, I know because she was my father's mother. And I remember that my father used to send her money to buy something because they were very simple, humble people,
Yes.
family. And not only my father used to send money to his mother, but even to the cousins, the
Give this little
nieces,
bit to this one.
and give this little bit. I saw in a letter written by my father, and he says, give this, it was like $1 to Zia Polita because she can buy capitone. I don't know the translation of capitone in English.
Anil.
Anil.
That's a fish.
And
yeah.
a fish for
Christmas, yes.
So he was such an affectionate man.
He was,
Yeah.
and we all remember him with great affection. And we have beautiful photographs of your dad, which were taken in New York. So New York of the 1920s was also a great place where a lot of Italian culture was created. In other words, I'm talking about Neapolitan songs. Neapolitan songs written in New York of the time. So it was an interesting period, the Roaring Twenties, Al Capone and all that sort of. The mafia myth apparently was pretty real, but the mafia myth came about because the authorities at the time didn't care much about the migrants, and so they sort of tended to look after themselves. A bit of an apologia for what was a very difficult time for Italian migrants to the United States.
Excuse
A
me?
difficult time
Ah,
it was for them.
sure.
It was really, and yeah, there's a lot more, of course, on this, but we'll have to leave it for now, and we'll come back for another little chat with Carmela about something else.